If you've ever felt like you're stuck in the void of what's next, well, I want to tell you that you're not alone, because today's guest on the Creatives Rule the World podcast is going to show you and share with you why being in the void is actually where the magic begins. Hey there, it's Tracy Matthews here. I am the podcast host of Creatives Rule the World, and I'm so excited to welcome you back to this show today. Today, I'm diving deep with my new friend, I should say, Anna Lozano. She is the co-founder of Love Powered Co. And she is going to walk us through her journey about what happened after she reached and achieved a big goal of selling her company, and what happened in that void after, which put her into a deep identity crisis and then also triggered a spiritual awakening, which is so cool. So in this conversation, we unpack some big topics, including how to truly reinvent yourself, how to regulate your nervous system in the process, and also what it really looks like to step into the energy and vibration of calling in $1,000,000 months. And when you align that with feminine energetics, guess what? It's a super powerful business strategy and the most powerful one out there. We're going to be diving deep into this conversation today, so let's dive right in. Well, welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with my new friend, Anna Lozano. Thanks for being here today.
I am so excited. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you have such an interesting background, and I'm so excited to dig into all of the things. I feel like we have a lot to talk about. Now, before we dive into that, I just wanted you to share a little bit about your background, because one of the things that I think would be interesting to my community is that you sold your product-based business.
Yeah, I did.
So tell me a little bit about where you came from.
Yeah, let's dive in. So I was groomed, programmed to do the whole corporate thing. So that's what I did. Went to an Ivy League business school, started climbing the corporate ladder, realized like, okay, I do not belong here. And basically my realization came when I had to market products that I would never consume for myself. And so it just began to feel really out of alignment early on. And so I really surrendered to the universe. I was raised Polish immigrant. And so my parents, especially my dad, he was like, what are you doing? Quitting this corporate career that was, something that you had been working through. But I just knew deep down that there was something else for me. And so I began exploring entrepreneurship. And my beginning phases was through network marketing. And as I dove in, really not knowing much about the industry, I just knew that if I could make a network marketing business successful, then I had many of the skills I needed to become a successful entrepreneur. And so that's what happened. So I scaled that company to the top of the company in 4.5 years. And I was like, okay, what is next? So then came the next big surrender. I had gotten pregnant, had my little one. And so what I realized was that, yes, it was the skills of entrepreneurship, but also all of the personal growth work and mindset work that I had been doing for 6 years prior that really supported me in growing a successful network marketing business. And so, it was that moment of, okay, exploration. What's going to come next? What do I want to create? And I had a lunch date with a friend who was also into personal development. We began talking about affirmations. She had little ones. I had a newborn. And I said, what if we created an affirmation company? Because we so believe in the power of words and the power of really rewriting our stories to create success. And so we got to work. We launched a product line 9 months later called Love Powered Co. And it's fascinating because people talk about timing in entrepreneurship. And for us, it was literally the worst time possible. Like I said, I had a toddler at the time, like now fast forward 9 months. And I found out like 2 weeks after we launched, I was pregnant with my second one. And I had very pukey beginnings. Like I was just a mess.
You're like, this is a nightmare.
This is a nightmare. She was going through like a massive house reno. And so, when entrepreneurs wait for the perfect time, like it's never going to come.
It's
so
never
if you have
perfect.
Something on your heart, just go for it and figure it out along the way. And we had a lot of fun in the chaos building this brand, this business. We wholeheartedly believed in the product. We knew that we wanted to create something that was so beautiful, but so intentional and meaningful. It was really the beginning stages of the mindfulness space growing. Affirmations weren't mainstream at the time. Like it was more in the woo land of Louise Hay, godmother of affirmations. And so we would show up to Pottery Barn and fan out our cards and be like, hi, would you like to choose an affirmation card? And people would look at us like, who are you? What are you talking about? But step by step, little by little, timing really began to be on our side. And we started scaling, and we scaled through collaborations. We had amazing collaborations. We scaled through partnerships and influencer marketing, which was really booming at that time. We had digital advertising going. Actually, interesting story. So my husband left his corporate financing gig, his career, not gig, and he joined us to do digital marketing for Love Powered Co., which he studied, he learned, he practiced. We were his test company, and he still runs that agency to this day, working with some phenomenal female founders. And so it was momentum, it was movement, and then came the pandemic. And so you speak to product founders often, that was a really hard time for product-based businesses, especially because we couldn't get inventory. Inventory was coming from China. It was really interesting to navigate because we had to pivot. We had to look at different ways to continue the brand awareness and continue sales to come in. So we focused on our digital products. And then we also had our retail partnerships at the time, which was really, really supportive.
Right.
And 2021, we had a huge collaboration with Jillian Harris, and we launched a journal with her, which really skyrocketed the brand awareness at the time. And so we knew that this was the pivotal moment to start looking at an exit. Because when we launched the company, we knew, fast forward, whenever the timing was going to align, that we wanted to have a successful exit. And so really that's post-launch with Jillian Harris. That's when we began the exit plan.
That's so exciting. Are you allowed to say how you sold the company or who you sold it to?
Yeah. So it was, again, everything happened so intentionally with this brand and this company. So at first we hired a business broker. Now, the people that she was bringing were just not aligned. And I think this is a key message to founders who are looking to exit is you can do it, focused on how much you're going to sell for, looking at the numbers solely. For us, we knew that we wanted this company to live on. It was created with heart. It had impacted so many families around the world. We just knew that we wanted the product to live on. And so who the business broker was bringing to us, there wasn't real alignment. It wasn't a fit. And one day I just had this download. I had this intuitive hit, like go on your Instagram. So I had also been building my personal brand up alongside building the company. And I went on my Instagram, and this amazing woman who was formerly an accountant, well, she's still an accountant now. You might actually know her, because Stacy Millard. So she magically showed up on my Instagram stories that day and was like, I'm interested. Can we begin this conversation?
Wow.
So we connected all of us to the business broker, and it was a beautiful process. It was a 6-month process to get to the end of transitioning the company over. But the buyer came from my Instagram stories. So talk about synchronicity and talk about alignment.
Wow. That's so great. And that's how I feel like everything should happen. And I think when we start getting out of alignment or not like really calling in what it is that we desire, that's when things start to get a little bit sketch.
Exactly. That's where the frequency and the energetics really matter, because as we were having conversations with these potential buyers, we didn't feel it. It would have been easy to say, okay, let's do this, but it never felt in alignment because, again, the intention was for this product to live on. And so it was just following the breadcrumbs, following those intuitive hits. Like me going on Instagram 6 months after we started the process was just guidance. It was divine guidance. And the fact that she, in that moment in time, was watching my stories, like you can't plan for these things. And this is why I'm so obsessed with frequency and energetics and really building and scaling in energetic alignment. Because when you do everything up here and logic drives you, solely logic drives you, you'll never open yourself up to these magic and miracles and synchronicities that exist for all of us.
This is so, so true. So let's talk about that. How do you, like, for someone who's just kind of learning the principles of like energetics and getting into alignment, I've been talking about this a lot for the past couple of weeks because I just launched a new program called The Art of Reinvention. The whole first section of it is all about energy and alignment with your business. And for people who are kind of starting this process, like, how do you start the process of really calling in what you want?
So everything always starts with awareness. And we have to remember that the laws of the universe exist. It's not something that we get to choose to play with or not choose to play with. They exist just like gravity. And so, certain principles like the law of cause and effect, or, when we look at manifestation specifically, it's a process. First, it's awareness, our thoughts. And then comes the being. The whole conversation of be, do, have is not do, have, be, it's be, do, have. And so when we become the embodiment of that thing that we desire, and then we take the action steps in alignment towards it, then things and synchronicities and opportunities start to appear. But it starts with us becoming an energetic match for them. And so when you talk about reinvention, like, I feel like I'm in a whole other reinvention right now. Like, this is I don't know which iteration we're at.
I'm on my fifth.
Definitely in another one right now. And, I took the last 18 months to post sales. So let me just tie up that story with a bow. So
definitely.
The buyer presented herself and it felt like an energetic match. And then of course came all of the details and all of the background and processes and SOPs and financials and all of it. We had a business broker guiding us, which was really supportive. One of the things that we did extremely well when scaling that company to an exit is me and my co-founder, we stayed in our zone of genius. And so for me, that's always been sales, marketing, collaborations, networking, community building. She was the creative and we outsourced the rest. So we brought in a financial team, we brought in our fulfillment center, we brought in all of the things that we knew were out of our zone of genius. And so there was no way we were going to have a successful exit doing it ourselves. And so we brought in the team to support. Well, that's really important. So when that happened, that was December 2022, came 2023. And I'm like, okay, the natural thing, the type A, high-powered, success-driven Anna would have right away jumped into what's next. But what happened next is I decided a few months after that to relocate my family for the school year to Mexico. Now, this genius idea came with the intention of my kids are going to learn Spanish. My husband's Mexican. It's going to be so much fun. But this is when my smackdown came. This is when universe was like, okay, you are now going to find yourself and really find the depth. And from that depth, you're going to create the new. And so I spent the last 18 months really looking at in complete discomfort because I resisted this. Now I feel like I'm on the other side of it, so I can talk about it with a smile, but it was freaking hard. It was being in this void, in this unknown of what is next? What is my purpose? What is the meaning of my life? And so what I started looking at is the feminine and masculine energetics. If I'm going to have the next chapter, I want it to feel differently. I was done with the hustle. I was done with chasing the results. I had done it and done it successfully. But at the same time, there was always this subconscious thought going, this pattern of what's next, lack of celebration, already 10 steps ahead. And so I knew that I had to take this time of discomfort to figure out, what do I want to feel like? If we're going to create next, what energy is it going to be built on? What is the frequency? At this stage in life, I have two girls, they're 7 and 9. They're my biggest priority. I want to make sure that I'm spending time with them, but not just spending time with them, being fully present.
Right.
I want people to feel like when they meet me, that I am fully there present, not thinking about my to-do list. And so also was the stage of feminine energetics, people talking about it, but I didn't resonate with the baths midday. I wanted to really know and understand what it felt like for me. And so I dove into discovery, and it was the biggest blessing because now that's really what I teach founders to do. I do work with startup founders, but it's looking at how do you want to create this and in what energy? Because that's going to be the foundation of every single action that you take.
I love that. And what was kind of the going on in that moment? You know, I think one of the things that people are really impatient with is in that what's next phase, when you're asking yourself all these questions, it can sometimes feel a lot harder. And then you start to panic, right?
Yeah.
Like people start to panic. They get anxious or like nothing's coming through. I don't know what to do. And if I don't figure this out soon, and then that puts them more in their masculine energy and in that kind of like repulsion thing. Like, how do you get out of that?
Exactly. It's exactly that. And we're trying to rush the process. And so I sat with that. I'm like, why am I trying to rush the process? Because people are going to forget about me. I'm no longer known as the co-founder of Love Powered Co. Will I still get the podcasts and the stages? You know, am I going to be forgotten? Really was the fear. So you got to look at like, what is driving all of those thoughts? And for me, it really was that, like, am I still going to be relevant? Was the big question.
Yes.
Right. And so when I looked at that, it had nothing to do with me. It was all external perceptions that I was worried about and losing this identity that I had built over the last 6 years. And so what mattered, then I really took another step back and say, like, what matters most? And what mattered to me most was regulating my nervous system, was getting to this space of feeling good every single day rather than rushing to the next thing. And on top of that, nothing that I was putting out there was really working. And that to me was the universal sign to sit in the shit, to sit in the void. And interestingly enough, the past 18 months, and this is what, like, I'm taking us to January. We're now further ahead and I feel so much clarity. I feel so much excitement for what is now that I am creating next. But I'm now taking a course with Joe Dispenza called his Abundance Course. It is so brilliant. And in the course, he talks about the void. And his definition of the void is pure consciousness, where all possibility exists. And I'm like,
oh my God, I just got the chills. I think I need this program.
And I look back, I was like, I was so annoyed with the void for a large portion of the time. Sitting in the void, I was frustrated. I was annoyed. I was so uncertain. And now, if you're in the void, the message that I have is allow yourself to be a part of it, immerse in it, be so grateful that you are a part of it, because that's where all possibility lies. But you need to go through it. You need to remove the subconscious blocks that are standing in the way, old habits, patterns that maybe you're sick and tired, thoughts that no longer serve you. You need to clean up whatever needs to be cleaned up. And I'm talking to myself. That's what needed to happen.
No, I know. Yes, all of us. This is like a universal thing. It's not just you or me or anyone listening. It's like we all have the same thing. I was talking with someone this morning and she's joining my program and she's like, you know, I have a few more questions. This has nothing to do with you. This is my limiting belief and I know it, but I just have to ask. You know what I mean? It's like that we know that there's this awareness and it's like it takes constant work. And sometimes I feel like, you know, I'm like, am I sharing something that people already know? But we need to be literally reminded every single day.
Every single day. And here's the beautiful thing is, like, whatever you're sharing is coming with your expertise, with your perspectives, with all the life that you have lived to now. So even if we're sharing the same message, it's going to land and resonate differently because even our blueprints are different. And so if I summarize that back now, so if we now think of the void as pure consciousness and where all possibility exists, don't you feel like a relaxed, calm nervous system of like, whew, what is the possibility?
Also, you get into this space of trusting.
Yes.
Because when you can trust that you are on the right path instead of like beat yourself up for not being in a certain place or crossing the finish line or whatever it looks like, that's where the magic happens. And that's where the creativity is. And that's where the ideas start to flow. And just, we've all been entrepreneurs for a long time. One of the things that I've noticed is I've been kind of going through my what's next and like launching this new program and stepping into a new phase for me is, as much as we know we're not supposed to do this, it is just natural that our subconscious mind wants to compare us to other people. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I've been coming back to every single time is your journey is your journey, and it's perfect just as it is. And what's next for you is going to be so much bigger than what has been. And so just because something didn't work out the way that you thought it was going to, doesn't mean that there's not a bigger plan for you on the other side.
100%. And we need to have trust and faith in those redirects, right? Because we've all tried things and maybe they haven't been what we envisioned, but it's part of the story. It's part of those stepping paths, and each one is connected to the next. And so I always look at, what are the blessings? Again, I can look back at each stage of my life and say, wow, as hard as it was in the moment, there was meaning and purpose in it. And I wouldn't be here where I am today if I didn't go through that entire experience. And so it's this shift in perspective of saying, like, what is the miracle in this? What is the blessing in this? And also remembering that if we're stuck in this, like, oh, I have to go be, I have to do, and that energy is not magnetic. And so when I was really looking at masculine and feminine energies, like, the feminine, society oftentimes perceives as weak, as lazy. But my definition, and now, and again, through playing with it and experimenting and experiencing, like, the feminine energy, she's creative, she's magnetic, she is extremely creative and intuitive. And when we compare that, because I'm sure most of the women listening to your podcast operate from a masculine energy, because that is how we create success in North American culture. Well, your masculine is your driver. It makes shit happen, has the systems, has the team, has the foundations. But when you can flow in between these two energies, this is where you create a frequency that becomes a match for all of these opportunities, experiences, people that maybe, if we didn't realign and continue to be in this like hustle, go, 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 would not even happen for us. And so I live from this space now of, I'm so excited for the synchronicities that are waiting for me. And my job is to be that energetic match for them.
So how do you stay energetically aligned when stuff's happening around you and it becomes more challenging? Because this is where I think people get stuck. They start to get into their anxiety. They get panicked. I was talking to someone earlier who fell into a big depression, and she was in, like, I'm ashamed to admit this, but my husband left and I stayed in bed for an entire week and got myself into a really bad situation. When he came home, I said, I don't even want to be here anymore. And it was hard for her to like really admit to herself that she was in that bad of a place, but she's back. And so, like, for people who are kind of going down that anxious road, like, how do you start to step into this energetic match when there is no evidence that what you want is coming?
And such a powerful question. But here's the thing. It's your absolute responsibility to do it, because if you don't, you're going to continue on this downward spiral. And so if you look at it as, okay, it's my responsibility, and yet I'm not going to bypass anything. And listen, shit's going to happen. This is part of life, and it happens to every single one of us. And so it's part of the path. But the way that I look at it now is things are going to happen. Okay, so as they happen, and I had a situation, I'm trying to think of something that really took me off alignment over the last few weeks. But, this has been interesting here for me in Mexico. And I actually haven't shared it, but let's go into it. So living in a small village in the Mayan Riviera, I could have never predicted what would be. And so what I'm realizing is there's a lot of different groups here. And so being new in the community is really looking at myself, like, where do I fit in? What value do I bring? How, like, these people have been friends for a long time. There's different groups from different countries. And honestly, it brought me back to high school. And
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I just turned 40. Like, I did not think that this was old trauma that needed to be brought to the surface for healing. And I was so sad and so upset when I wasn't invited. And I was like, oh my God, Anna, you have done 15 years of work. And this has taken you so out of an energetically aligned frequency. You need to dive deeper into this. And honestly, it was insane in like the most logical way of like, how the heck are we going through this? Like, we already experienced this when we were like 14. And yet my teen Anna needed to be felt, seen, heard, and loved, right? This is sisterhood wounds that are coming up for healing. And so I sat in the sadness. I sat in the frustration. And this is where, for everyone moving through things, one is knowing that you're going to move through things. This is life. And every situation is an opportunity to heal even more. And so, as insane this might sound to some people, you understand.
I totally understand it.
This had to come up. And so, rather than trying to bypass and being like, all okay, I spoke to some of those people and said, hey, like, this is how I feel. And normally I'd be a conflict avoider. Like, I just don't want conflict, especially when I'm new. And I actually leaned into that and said, hey, like, this is how I felt. And some received it, others didn't. But I also have a mantra running, like, God, universe, put me in the spaces and places that support my highest vision and take me out of the ones that don't. And so if I'm asking this, if my higher self is asking for this, it's going to manifest into reality. And so felt the feelings, had some deep conversations. The one deep conversation I had, actually, I'm the closest with that woman compared to anyone else because we were able to go deep, and she was able to hold space for my feelings, and I was able to express safely. And so, like, be in it. Don't try to rush the process, whatever it is you're going through, but know that your responsibility is to come back into alignment. The time doesn't matter how long it takes you to get to the other side, but knowing that, yes, this is happening for you for a purpose, for a reason, and it is supporting your evolution. So that's how I look at every single thing, and I feel it and I sit in it, and it's uncomfortable and it's the unknown. And yet every single time, hindsight 2020, okay, I see why I had to go through that.
You know, it's interesting. Something similar happened to me. This is something that I've been working on too. It's hard, you know, to feel like you're left out of a group and you're like, oh, that's all the people that I was hanging out with, you know, blah, blah, blah. And you don't get invited to the thing or whatever. And I think sometimes that really does come up to just trigger you in a way so that you can heal the thing. So it's not the thing anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
I could see it. I could see the high school wounds that I never recognized, that I never acknowledged, that I never felt. You know, it was just kind of like, okay, this is part of life. It sucks. And then you move on. But clearly they were stuck there deeply. And who would have predicted that at 40, they would come up again? And again, I could have just pushed them on. I'm fine. I know a lot of people, you know, I have all these different, but no, the healing comes when we actually allow ourselves to face that very thing that is extremely uncomfortable. And so that's, and it's beautiful because that's what I'm teaching my girls also.
So great.
And they're going through similar things, and they're not always invited to the party, the birthday party. They're not. And I had to go through it also to be able to guide them, because our kids really look at what we do versus what we say we're going to do. And so, yeah, it's all perfect, but don't bypass it because you'll miss the magic of it.
Yes. The bypassing is the thing that can be super easy to do. And for people who do you want to explain what bypassing is, just for people who don't understand what that means, if they're newer to this kind of work?
Exactly. Just not facing it, being like, oh, I'm fine. You know, or going back to whatever tendencies you have, people pleasing, putting on that mask and not allowing yourself to go deep in. I feel now we're in this era of like, we need to connect deeply in order to do the big work that we are meant to do in this work. And so exactly as I shared the example is I could have just said, I'm fine, and go choose another group of friends to spend time with. But I decided to face it head on. feel the discomfort, feel the feelings of sadness and hurt,
Right.
eventually anger, like move through the emotional frequency scale until I reached a place of neutral. And now I see when I'm not invited, and it's like, okay, there's no more trigger response. There's no emotion. It's just neutral. And sometimes I might say something like, isn't that interesting? But not in a sarcastic, catty way. It's like, okay, just showing myself where I'm meant to be to support that highest, grandest vision and where I'm not meant to be. And I'm at peace. And ultimately, peace is the goal.
Peace is the goal. Regulated nervous system is the goal. Sitting in the void, trusting
that all possibilities live in the void, as shitty as it is in the moment. I promise you the magic is on the other side.
Oh, it's so great. So for anyone who's kind of getting into a space of wanting to understand more about how to regulate their nervous system and step into a place where they're being before the experiences here. I know we all hear about law of attraction, and for years I've been teaching my community about affirmations and stuff like that, but it's literally like a daily practice. So what have been some of the practical or tactical things that you've done to help you step into that person that you're becoming before the evidence is there?
Before the evidence is there. And this is, again, that space of uncertainty, discomfort. We've been programmed, our brains have been programmed to be in survival since
forever.
The beginning, forever. And so now we no longer need to be in survival, and the unknown is the most uncomfortable space for most people to be. And so I love that you brought up the regulating the nervous system. So I was speaking to a friend early January, setting targets, setting goals, financial goals specifically for the year. And I said something like, you know what, $250,000 months would be amazing. And she goes, well, if you're calling in a number, like, universe doesn't discriminate. Like, it doesn't matter if it's 250, a million, 10 million, like, call in whatever, like, what is the number? I'm like, fuck it, $1 million months. Like, why not? And then physical, right? Like, what is the nervous system response to that? And so I sat with the $1 million months. I mean, I've never had $1 million month, but like, okay, what would that feel like? And to be honest, at first it was this compression. So for me, my physical sign of out of alignment or discomfort is a contraction. And oftentimes women feel that, right? So I could feel like a pressure in my chest. So then began the journey of expanding my nervous system to be able to hold more wealth, because we create these ceilings based on past evidence. And so sitting in visualization of $1 million months coming in, at first it was very uncomfortable. Like, I could feel, again, like that tightness. So I began like to shake my shoulders and like move energy, like, just because it's energy, it's stuck energy. And then I would just, over time, and I did this every single day, like visualizing it coming in, breathing through it, I could feel myself relax. And so this is the preparation for it. Again, it's be, then do, and then have. And so that's one of the things that I've been doing. I've been incorporating breath work. I was the woman that would always say, I don't meditate. I'm a generator. I have too much energy. I cannot sit in meditation. Who can relate? And then I found, or Joe found me, but Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I am obsessed with this program. It's his abundance course. It's brand new. I hope he runs it again, but his meditations are focused specifically on calling in your next level of abundance. And so the timing was absolutely perfect. The meditations are focused on expanding into that vision, that version that you hold for yourself and that next iteration. And so that has been really, now it's breath work, meditation. And then really when I'm sitting, the third piece is visualization in it, it's connecting the feeling. So as I'm building out this new brand, as I'm holding this purpose, like, how does it feel to live it now? And I think this is the biggest work. And at first I had a hard time with the feeling because it is so big. And so I felt the contraction again. And then it was just even speaking to myself with the affirmations of like, you're safe. to hold this vision. It came to you for a reason. You're safe to hold this amount of wealth. You're safe and you're worthy of it, right? So this has been the behind the scenes work of moving towards this purpose and this vision. When it comes to nervous system regulation, then of course it's the action, right? Because you can sit in visualization, meditation, you can do the breath work, but what action are you taking to move it forward? And so all of that tied in together. The other piece that I was going to say here is, one, make it a habit, but two, do what you can. Because my biggest thing about meditation was always like, well, I don't have 90 minutes to sit in meditation every single day. You know, this was like the time excuse, the time constraint. But start with 10 minutes. Every little layer adds on to something that's next and that's unfolding for you. So again, that nervous system regulation piece is breath work, sitting in breath, allowing yourself to really calm. You can feel the calmness when you're moving through breath work. Meditation, allowing those thoughts to move until you get what Joe Dispenza calls into the void. And the void is, again, where consciousness and possibility exist, but it's really being in this void of this unknown. Because if we're always trying to create from logic and make shit happen, then we're missing all of the other possibilities that are existing for us. And then sitting in the visualization of what you are creating, but most importantly, feeling the feeling of those things already being your reality. And so gratitude, magnetism, joy, whatever you want to connect with, and then ultimately the peace that we desire.
I love this. Okay, so what company are you calling in $1 million months for? What's the new thing?
So am I sharing this? Am I sharing this publicly? So this came through a visualize like this. I was doing a meditation, then moved into visualization, and there was still that uncertainty, this unknowing, and all of a sudden it landed. The prosperity playground. So I hold a vision for this to be a self-transformation brand for women and children. And so I'm creating it with my girls. My girls are 7 and 9. They've been raised on affirmations. And so we're so excited. I don't know the exact steps, but the first product being launched is a podcast. So I'm launching podcast. Then we're going to do a series of children's books, a book for women. And then it's going to continue to be built upon that. So when I sit in visualization, I can see the billboard in Dubai. I can see the billboard in New York Times Square. Now, I want to give a practical hack here. Go to ChatGPT and create images of these visions that you hold. So I created a reel with it. You can see it. We created vision board images of my girls, and they're in their goals, living their visualizations, my goals and visions that I hold for this brand. So now we've layered it with images. And when I sit in visualization, I see these images and I connect it to the feeling. So make sure you do that. ChatGPT, when you can use AI efficiently and for manifestation, it's like the ultimate winning.
It's so great. I know. It's so good.
And it's helping us be more efficient, save time. I'm like, what a wonderful time to be alive and create businesses.
The thing that I love, love using it for some specific things, but like even for podcasting, just taking the transcript and then dropping it in there and being like, okay, like what were the key points? Yes. And then I record my intro and outro, and like, what was there anything that I need to like be sharing? It makes it so much easier, and I love it. AI is an amazing tool if you know how to use the different tools in a way that are going to help save you a lot of time and be more efficient and all the things. So it's awesome.
100%. If we tie it to astrology, we're in the Aquarian age, and a big piece of the Aquarian age is conscious technology and collaboration. And so it's no, again, coincidence. It's a synchronicity that AI is booming. And like, again, what an amazing tool.
It's so fun. You know, my friend Jessica, I just see like all of her things on her feed right now about like, about my Palladian AI technology. I'm just like, girl, I love you so much. I'm just like, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, you go.
You go, girl. It's amazing. Like this is, again, when used consciously, like, and as Dan Martell says, like we're buying back our time, being able to leverage these conscious technologies that are being created and very quickly also. So I love it.
Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so glad we finally got to meet. Where can everyone find you?
Thank you for having me. So Instagram is _Anna Lozano, and then my website's annalozano.com.
You're amazing. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you enjoyed this video, make sure that you like and subscribe to our channel, and make sure that you find the Creatives Rule the World podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and subscribe right there. More than anything, if you love what you hear, make sure that you go follow Anna Lozano on Instagram and meet us at the Pink Skirt Project, which is happening in Kelowna in June of 2025. We'll both be there, and it would be great to connect. All right. Thanks so much for watching the show. Ciao for now.